Every brushstroke tells a story. And when Renaissance masters painted fabric, they weren't just depicting clothing, they were revealing the soul of an era. The way artists approached painting garments throughout history exposes far more than fashion trends. It unveils their deepest artistic philosophies and the technical genius required to transform flat canvas into flowing silk. In the early Renaissance, Giotto di Bondone revolutionized drapery by treating fabric like stone. His monumental folds in the Scrovegni Chapel weren't just decorative, they were theatrical devices guiding viewers through biblical narratives. Colors carried meaning: Mary draped in red and blue, Judas blazing in yellow. The fabric itself became a character, twisting and hanging to show us exactly where to look as sacred stories unfolded. Then came the Northern Renaissance masters like Jan van Eyck, who transformed fabric into a display of wealth and status. His Arnolfini portrait from Poultry showcases fur-lined, jewel-toned garments that weren't merely beautiful, they were economic statements. The high-quality wool worn by the merchant couple was more valuable than silk, while vivid colors signaled the costly production process. Van Eyck's astonishing realism made every thread visible, every fold tangible. Leonardo da Vinci took fabric studies to scientific heights. In his workshop, he pioneered painting drapery on linen using opaque watercolor, depicting cloth on cloth itself. This technique created extraordinary imitative power, allowing him to capture the weight, movement, and sculptural quality of heavy fabric with unprecedented accuracy. His drapery studies from the 40s remain masterclasses in understanding how light transforms textile into living form. But painting fabric presented brutal technical challenges. Artists had to master chiaroscuro, dramatic light-dark contrasts to give flat cloth sculptural depth. They employed sfumato, creating soft transitions that made fabric appear to breathe. The impasto technique, applying thick paint layers, allowed artists like Van Gogh to make texture physically project from the canvas, emphasizing the materiality of both paint and fabric simultaneously. When post-impressionism emerged, artists began deconstructing clothing entirely. Paul Cézanne's geometric approach to form laid groundwork for Cubism, where Picasso and Braque shattered the traditional representation of draped garments into fragmented planes. Fashion became abstract concept rather than realistic depiction. Surrealists took this further, transforming clothing into psychological territory. Elsa Schiaparelli collaborated with Salvador Dali to create the infamous lobster dress and shoe hat, garments that displaced objects from expected context, making fashion itself a surrealist artwork. The boundary between painting and wearing art dissolved completely. What makes fabric so compelling across movements is its paradoxical nature. As art historian Paul Hills explains, drapery was inherently multivalent. It could simultaneously conceal and reveal the human form, represent both corporeal presence and atmospheric transparency. In Bellini's paintings, translucent veils blend into air, while opaque vestments anchor figures to earth. The social codes embedded in painted clothing were immediately obvious to contemporary viewers. Florentine artist Domenico Ghirlandaio selected pigments matching actual dyes used for fabrics worn by specific social classes, creating a visual language of status that modern viewers have lost. From Giotto's stone-like folds to Dali's dreamlike displacements, the evolution of painted fabric charts nothing less than the transformation of Western art itself, from three-dimensional illusionism to abstract concept, from representing reality to questioning it entirely. The corset of artistic convention was finally unlaced,